There's a man walking to the free throw line right now. He is not sprinting. He is not pumping his fist. He is not yelling at the crowd or staring down his opponent or flexing for the cameras. He is just walking, slow, calm, like he owns the entire building, like the game is being played at his pace, and everyone else is simply waiting for him to decide what happens next. He bounces the ball once, twice. He exhales. He shoots. It goes in. He does it again. It goes in. He walks back to the top of the key. And the cycle begins again. And somewhere in America, in a living room, in a sports bar, in a dorm room, on a couch at 2 a.m, someone watching this grabs a remote, stares at the screen, and says something out loud that they did not expect to say. This is the best player in the world right now, and I cannot watch him. That is the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander paradox. He is a reigning NBA MVP. He is a reigning NBA Finals MVP. He is a scoring machine, the clutch king, the face of a championship franchise. He has broken records that only Wilt Chamberlain could lay claim to. He is 27 years old and already one of the most accomplished players of his generation. He is also, depending on who you ask, a flop artist, a free throw merchant, a referee whisperer, a man who has figured out how to win at basketball in a way that makes people want to stop watching basketball. And right now, in May of 2026, the argument over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is louder, messier, and more furious than it has ever been. So let's go all the way back. Let's go back to the beginning of this story. Back before the MVP trophies and the championship rings and the viral flop reels. Back to a kid in Canada who got cut from his high school basketball team. Because if you want to understand who Shai Gilgeous-Alexander really is and why what he does makes people feel the way they feel, you have to understand where he came from. Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. It is a city of steel and working people. A place that sits at the southwestern tip of Lake Ontario, about an hour from Toronto, pressed against the edge of the Niagara Escarpment. It is the kind of place where people work hard and expect things to be earned, where nobody hands you anything, where if you fail, you get up and try a different way. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was born in Toronto on July 12, 1998. He moved to Hamilton at age 10 to live with his mother, Charmaine. That detail alone tells you something about this family, because Charmaine Gilgeous was not just any mother. She was an Olympian, a sprinter. She competed for Antigua and Barbuda in the 400-meter event at the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games. That is his mother. His father, Von Alexander, played basketball growing up and coached young Shai from an early age. Athletics were not just a hobby in this household. They were a language, a way of understanding the world. So when Shai got to St. Thomas More Catholic Secondary School in Hamilton and decided to try out for the junior basketball team, it was not just a casual decision. It was an identity moment, a declaration of who he was going to be. The coaches watched him, evaluated him, weighed what they saw against what they needed, and then they cut him. He did not make the team. Let that land for a moment. The man who is currently in the middle of one of the most dominant individual performances in NBA history, the man who has broken Wilt Chamberlain's records, won league MVP, won finals MVP, scored over 30 points a night for 2 seasons running, could not make his high school junior basketball team in Hamilton, Ontario. He was devastated. He wanted to go back to Toronto, to leave, to walk away from the whole thing. But Charmaine told him to stay. He transferred to Sir Allan McNabb Secondary School, made their team, and then did something that tells you everything about the competitive fire burning inside him. He led that team to the city championship and was named the most valuable player. He was already learning a lesson that would define his career. When one path closes, you find another, and then you beat everyone on that path. But Hamilton was not enough anymore, not for where he wanted to go. In 2015, a 16-year-old Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made a decision that required real courage. He left Canada, left home, left his family and his city, and the only world he had known. He moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to attend Hamilton Heights Christian Academy, a school known as a basketball powerhouse, a place where elite prospects go to prove themselves against elite competition. He had one simple reason: better competition. I just thought I needed to play better competition, he said. That sentence is the cleanest possible window into who this man is. Not chasing fame, not chasing attention, chasing the challenge. He averaged 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in his senior year. He represented Canada at the FIBA America's Under-18 tournament. He committed to University of Kentucky, one of the most prestigious basketball programs in America, coached by John Calipari, a program that has sent dozens of players to the NBA. In Lexington, he started the season as a backup. By the end of the year, he was a starter. In the SEC tournament, he exploded. In the championship game against Tennessee, he put up 29 points. Named tournament MVP. Kentucky made the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament before losing to Kansas State. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made up his mind. He was going to the NBA. The 2018 NBA draft. The Charlotte Hornets held the 11th pick and used it to select Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Charlotte, a mid-market team. A franchise that had struggled for years to find its identity. A place where stars often came and went without leaving a mark. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander never played a single game for Charlotte. On draft night, that same night, the Hornets traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers. One night, one selection, one immediate trade. In a league full of dramatic moments, being traded on the night you are drafted is still one of the strangest ways to begin a professional career. You hear your name called. The commissioner shakes your hand. The hat goes on your head. You think you know where you're going. And then, before the night is over, you are going somewhere completely different. The Los Angeles Clippers got their man. And for Shai, landing in LA made a certain kind of sense. The Clippers, in 2018, were building something interesting. They had veterans. They had experienced leadership. They had a young player ready to grow alongside a real roster. He spent one season in Los Angeles, averaging 10.8 points on 47% shooting as a 20-year-old rookie. Efficient, promising, a player who could clearly score, could defend, could handle the ball, but a player who had not yet become what he would become. And then came the trade that changed everything, not just for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for the entire NBA. July 6, 2019, 1:55 in the morning Eastern Time, the Oklahoma City Thunder announced they were trading Paul George to the Los Angeles Clippers. Paul George was a superstar, a 9-time All-Star, a man who had just averaged 28 points per game and finished second in MVP voting. He was one of the best players in the world, and he wanted to go to the Clippers, to team up with Kawhi Leonard, who had just won the championship with Toronto, and make Los Angeles a title contender. The Clippers were desperate. They had just landed Kawhi as a free agent, but keeping him long-term would be much easier if they paired him with another star. They needed Paul George. They needed him badly, and Sam Presti knew it. Sam Presti is the general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest front office minds in the history of professional basketball. He has a reputation for patience, for chess playing, for thinking 3 moves ahead, while everyone else is watching the current move. When the Clippers came calling about Paul George, Presti did something that shocked the basketball world. He asked for everything. For unprotected first-round draft picks, 2 first-round pick swaps, a protected first-round pick, Danilo Gallinari, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Clippers, drunk on the dream of a Kawhi Paul George dynasty in Los Angeles, said yes. They gave away the keys to their future for a partnership that would never reach a finals. A partnership defined by injuries, load management, and crushing playoff disappointments. Paul George would later leave the Clippers without a single finals appearance. Kawhi would miss entire seasons to injuries. The dynasty they were supposed to build never arrived. And in Oklahoma City, something extraordinary began. The Thunder already had a culture. They had a way of doing things. Patient, methodical, development-focused. A philosophy built by Presti over more than a decade. And now they had a young, long, rangy guard from Hamilton, Ontario, with a competitive fire that nobody had fully measured yet. The rebuild began. And at the center of it, quietly, without a great deal of fanfare, was Shai. Here is the part of the story that gets glossed over in highlight reels. After the Paul George trade, the Oklahoma City Thunder were not good. They were not supposed to be good. That was the point. They were rebuilding. They were drafting high picks, developing young players, accumulating assets, building from the foundation up. They were willing to be patient when patience was the hardest possible thing to be. In the 2019-20 season, SGA averaged 23 points per game and led the Thunder into the playoffs as the fifth seed. People started to pay attention. There was something here, something real. But Presti had a bigger plan. He started trading veterans away, accumulating more picks, stripping the roster down to its essentials. And the essentials, it turned out, were Shai in the future. 4-2 seasons, 2020-21 and 2021-22, the Thunder were genuinely bad. They were not trying to win. They were building. They dealt with injuries. They played young players who made mistakes. They lost games that were painful to watch if you were an Oklahoma City fan. But SGA kept growing. Every year, the numbers got better. Every year, the efficiency improved. Every year, the league took one more look and said, okay, this guy might actually be special. By 2023, he was averaging 31.4 points per game, one of the most efficient scoring seasons in NBA history. He earned his first All-NBA first-team selection. The Thunder surprised everyone by winning 40 games. The league was starting to understand that something was being built in Oklahoma City that was unlike anything it had seen in years. And then came the 2023-24 season, when the Thunder won 57 games and reached the second round of the playoffs. Gilgeous-Alexander finished fifth in MVP voting. The team was young. The team was hungry. And everyone in basketball could feel what was coming. The 2024-25 NBA season. This is the year you need to know. This is a year where the story of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander transforms from great player on a rising team into something much, much larger. He averaged 32.7 points per game. He led the entire league in scoring. He shot over 50% from the floor. He became the second guard in NBA history, after Michael Jordan, to average at least 30 points, for rebounds, for assists, 1 steal, and 1 block while shooting 50% or better from the field. Michael Jordan. That is the benchmark. That is the company he was in. The Oklahoma City Thunder won 64 games. 64. In a league where 55 wins makes you a powerhouse, 64 wins makes you historic. And in June of 2025, the Thunder met the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. It was not a coronation. It was not easy. The Pacers were tough, competitive. They pushed Oklahoma City to the edge. The Thunder gave up 2 games, stunning for a team that had looked bulletproof all year. Panic began to creep in. Were the Thunder going to blow this? Then came Game 4. The Thunder needed to respond. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander personally took over in the fourth quarter. 15 of his points came in that final frame. A takeover performance. A statement. A close. The Thunder won Game 4, regained control, and eventually won the series. When the confetti fell, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander stood at center court in Paycom Center, Oklahoma City, a city that had never won an NBA championship since the team relocated from Seattle and held both trophies, the league MVP trophy and the finals MVP trophy. In NBA history, only 4 players have ever won the regular season MVP, the finals MVP, and the scoring title all in the same season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander became the 4th. The others? Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James. That list, he was the second Canadian ever to win the NBA MVP award, following Steve Nash. The first Canadian ever to win the finals MVP. Back home in Canada, he won the Lionel Conacher Award as the country's top male athlete, and he was 26 years old. Here is something important. In all the debate about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in all the arguments about his style, his foul drawing, his flopping, his free throw rate, there's one dimension of his game that his critics rarely talk about: his defense. Among the top 5 MVP candidates in 2026, Gilgeous-Alexander is the only one who ranks in the top 100 in the entire league in defensive rating. Let that settle in. Not top 20, not top 50, top 100 in the whole NBA. Out of all the MVP candidates this year, out of Nikola Jokic, out of Victor Wembanyama, out of every name that gets thrown into the conversation, Shai is the only one who can say he is also one of the better defenders in the league. He blocks shots. He steals passes. He uses his long arms, that 6'6" wingspan stretched even longer by extraordinary reach, to disrupt the rhythm of opposing offenses. He is not just a scorer who does nothing on the other end. He is a two-way force, which makes his offensive dominance even more staggering. And his offensive game goes far beyond the free throw line. He averaged 31 points per game in 2026, while shooting 55% from the field overall. His mid-range jumper, once a weakness, evolved into something that defenders simply cannot game plan against. His step-back three, which he shot at 35.5% in his MVP season, improved to an absurd 52.2% in the following year. That is not improvement. That is evolution. That is the kind of leap that separates good players from all-time great ones. He set the record for the most consecutive games with at least 20 points, breaking a mark previously held by Wilt Chamberlain. He joined Chamberlain as the only players in NBA history to record 40-plus points, 10-plus assists, and 5-plus rebounds on at least 80% shooting from the field. In January of 2026, he did this against Milwaukee. 16 for 19 from the field, 40 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds. That game against the Milwaukee Bucks, that one night, Chamberlain is the only other person who has ever done that. He is not a gimmick. He is not a product. He is a genuine basketball genius who spent a decade refining his craft to levels that very few humans have ever reached. And yet, something is happening right now. Something that his extraordinary talent and his historic achievements cannot fully quiet. Something that is growing louder with every playoff game, with every viral clip, with every whistle that sends him to the free throw line. The backlash. Let's talk about the free throw line, because this is where the whole debate lives. This is the ground zero of the controversy. This is the place where basketball fans who admire Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and basketball fans who cannot stand watching him both plant their flags. In the 2025-26 regular season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaged 9.0 free throw attempts per game. 9 per game. Only 2 players in the entire league attempted more. And of those 9 attempts, he made nearly 88% of them. So roughly 7.9 points per game out of his 31.1 point average came from the free throw line. To put that in perspective, nearly a quarter of everything he scored this season came from standing 15 feet from the basket, completely unguarded, in silence. Now, here's a question that splits the basketball world in half. Is that genius, or is it problem? The argument for genius goes like this. The free throw line is the most efficient shot in basketball. Every point you score from there costs your opponent a foul, which means it also accelerates their foul trouble, limits their defender's ability to play physically, and puts pressure on the opposing coaching staff. Getting to free throw line at a high rate requires elite footwork, body control, strength, and timing. It is incredibly hard to do consistently. The fact that SGA does it at this rate is a testament to how elite his craft is. That argument is legitimate. It is real. It holds up under scrutiny. But here is where the second argument comes in, and this argument is also real. The specific way that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets to the line, the particular moves that generate the contact, the rate at which those moves result in whistles, that is what people are talking about when they use words like foul baiting and flopping. His most debated move, the fake shot, he rises as if going to shoot. He makes sure his left arm, the off arm, the non-shooting arm, makes contact with a defender who is trying to challenge the shot. The contact is manufactured. The foul is designed. And referees, game after game after game, blow the whistle. Is it legal? By the current rules of the NBA. Technically, yes. The defender has a responsibility not to be in the shooter's space. The shooter has the right to complete his motion. The line between a legitimate shooting foul and a manufactured foul has become razor thin in today's NBA. But there's a difference between legal and watchable. There's a difference between within the rules and good for the game. And a growing number of people, from casual fans to media members to other players to coaches, are saying out loud that what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does at the free throw line is technically legal but aesthetically damaging. They are saying it is making basketball less fun to watch. It was a first-round playoff game. The Oklahoma City Thunder against the Phoenix Suns. The Thunder were dominant. The series was never really in doubt. But what circulated on social media before halftime of Game 1 was not a box score. It was a compilation video. 2 minutes and 15 seconds of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his Thunder teammates dramatically falling to the floor. Flailing arms. Whipping heads. Bodies throwing themselves to the hardwood after light contact. Or sometimes, apparently, no contact at all. A highlight reel not of spectacular plays, but spectacular reactions to non-spectacular contact. The internet called it a flop reel. It spread everywhere. Within hours, millions of people had watched it. The comments were brutal and creative in equal measure. One user wrote, "Shai Flops Alexander is what we should call him now." Another wrote, "Looks like quite the klutz. Bet he doesn't look like this at practice." A third, "He looks like an over-exaggerated parent when they play with their kids. That's how I fall when my toddler wants to wrestle." Even Lil Wayne, the legendary rapper, a man not typically known for basketball commentary, weighed in. He said the defending NBA champions were, in his word, unwatchable. That word, unwatchable, it is a loaded word. It is a violent word in sports. You can call a team bad. You can call a player overrated. But calling something unwatchable is saying something deeper. It is saying, I do not want to be a part of this. I do not want to invest my attention and emotion into this. Something about what you're doing is breaking the experience of watching the sport that I love. And that word, from Lil Wayne, from fans, from media members, from sports blogs, from people who had watched basketball their whole lives, that word was being attached to the MVP of the NBA. It was not just fans and social media. After the Thunder played the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round of the 2026 playoffs, Lakers head coach J.J. Redick, a former NBA shooting guard, a man who played 15 seasons in this league, a man who knows exactly where the lines are, stood at the podium and talked about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. "They have a few guys that foul on every possession," Redick said, "and all the good defenses do. SJ gets like a touch foul, I guess." He described a stretch of 4 straight possessions where Lakers players got hit in ways that should have drawn fouls, and nothing was called. He pointed out a specific play where Jalen Williams grabbed a Lakers player's jersey with both arms, and no whistle sounded. "They're hard enough to play," Redick said. "You've got to be able to just call it if they foul." And they do foul. An NBA head coach, a former player, standing at a post-game press conference, saying out loud that the officials are calling fouls inconsistently in favor of Oklahoma City superstar. That is significant. That is not a random fan on Twitter. That is someone with standing, with experience, with credibility in the sport saying, something is wrong here. And then there was a play in Game 2 of that same series. A moment with Austin Reeves that generated a different kind of conversation. SGA was involved in an off-ball defensive play with Reeves. SGA extended his elbow. Reeves went down, holding his arm. Replays showed SGA pinning Reeves' arm and pulling, a move that multiple people said could have dislocated Reeves' shoulder or elbow. He was assessed a flagrant 1 foul and remained in the game. Many people watching felt it should have been worse, that it was lucky it was not. Suddenly the debate was not just about flopping and free throws. It was about the culture around how this team plays, about whether the line between smart and dirty was being respected. Here is where it gets complicated, because behind all the emotion and all the drama and all the viral videos, there's a legitimate statistical debate worth having. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaged 9.0 free throw attempts per game in the 2025-26 regular season. That is high. That is very high. But he is not alone at the top of that list. The leader in free throw attempts per game this season was Luka Doncic at 10.1. Luka Doncic, the man wearing a Los Angeles Lakers jersey in the very series where J.J. Redick complained about SGA's foul drawing. Luka Doncic is widely considered one of the most skilled foul baiters in the game. His ability to create contact, particularly on three-point attempts, where he leans into defenders with almost choreographic precision, is legendary. Austin Reeves, the Lakers player who went down clutching his arm after the SGA play, has his own reputation for exaggerating contact. Multiple analysts noted the irony of a Laker player being at the center of a flopping controversy against the Thunder. This is the modern NBA ecosystem. This is not one player. This is a style of play that has crept through the entire league, from the best teams to the worst, from the biggest stars to the role players. Finding a superstar who does not draw some form of manufactured or exaggerated contact is harder than finding one who does. The question, then, is not, does Shai Gilgeous-Alexander draw fouls in ways that blur the line? The answer to that is, yes, of course he does. The question is, why is the conversation about him so much louder than the same conversation about everyone else? And there are two honest answers to that question. First, because he is the best. When you are the reigning MVP, the defending champion, the face of the league, the man with his name on the billboard, everything you do gets amplified. Every controversy feels bigger. Every gray area gets painted in sharp contrast. Second, because he is winning. The Oklahoma City Thunder went 6-0 to start the 2026 playoffs. They have won 10 consecutive first-round games. They are making a mockery of the Western Conference. When a team that good is winning in ways that draw questions about officiating, about foul drawing, about flopping, the combination of dominance and controversy is a perfect recipe for outrage. People are not just mad at Shai because of how he plays. They are mad because of how much he wins while playing that way. Here is a data point that cuts through the noise. The Athletic ran a poll of 159 anonymous NBA players. Not fans, not media, not analysts, players. They were asked who should win the 2026 MVP award. 39% said Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The second-place candidate, Nikola Jokic, a three-time MVP and widely considered one of the greatest basketball players who has ever lived, received 21.4% of the vote. Victor Wembanyama, the French phenom who many media outlets had pegged as SGA's most serious challenger, received just 5% of the vote. The men who play against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander every night. The men who feel his pace, his footwork, his body control up close and personal. The men who have to make defensive decisions in real time against him. They looked at the question and said, by a wide margin, he is the most valuable player in this league. And in case you think that is just abstract polling, consider this. Jaylen Brown, who spent weeks publicly criticizing SGA's foul drawing as inconsistent with how his own moves were called, who took direct shots at the officiating disparity between himself and Gilgeous-Alexander. Even Brown's criticism was, in a backhanded way, an acknowledgement. You cannot be simultaneously angry at someone for getting calls and dismiss them as unworthy. If Brown was frustrated by the gap between how SGA was treated and how he was treated, it is because the gap was real. Because SGA was being treated like the best player in the league. Because the officials were making decisions that reflected the reality that everyone in basketball, at some level, accepts. He is that good. So what actually makes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander so hard to stop? Because here's the thing that the casual fan often misses in the flood of controversy. The flopping narrative, the free throw merchant label, the viral videos. These things obscure the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing something that very few human beings have ever been able to do on a basketball court. He is moving at speeds, stopping and starting, cutting and retreating, accelerating and decelerating, that defenders cannot predict or match. A sports writer from Maclean's in Canada described it this way. He has a rare combination of superior ankle flexibility and breaking ability, which allows him to stop and switch paths at a velocity that leaves his opponent standing still. He can pop in and out of full lunge as a defender commits. He can fake in one direction, reset his feet in a fraction of a second, and go the other way before the defender's brain has even processed the first move. It is not magic. It is biomechanics. It is years of training his body to move in ways that create angles no rule book can anticipate. And because defenders cannot predict where he is going, they commit, they reach, they foul, and when they foul, sometimes because they genuinely fouled him, sometimes because he manufactured the contact with extraordinary skill, the whistle blows. The line between elite footwork and manufactured fouls is genuinely, sometimes impossibly thin. The rule book does not have a clause for too elegant. There is no foul category called He made it look too easy, and we feel manipulated. The officials call what they see in real time at game speed, and what they see most of the time is contact that meets the threshold for a foul call. That is the reality of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's game. It is not entirely clean. It is not free of controversy, but it is also not simple. It is not reducible to e-flops. It is a complex interaction between elite skill, supreme body awareness, intelligent rule exploitation, and occasional boundary pushing that the league's rulebook has not figured out how to address. He is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And some of the people who are losing at chess are responding by saying the game is unfair. December 22nd, 2025. Oklahoma City is hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scores 31 points. It is his 100 consecutive games scoring at least 20 points. The building erupts. The Thunder win by 16. The man whose record he is chasing, Wilt Chamberlain, the most dominant scorer in NBA history. The man who once averaged 50 points per game for an entire season. The man who scored 100 points in a single game, a record that will almost certainly never be broken. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is sitting alongside him in the same sentence, in the same record book. Later in the season, he breaks Chamberlain's record entirely. He extends a streak of consecutive 20-point games to a new all-time high, and then he keeps going. In March 2026, he records 35 points, 9 rebounds, and a career-high 15 assists, and then hits a game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer to beat Denver. 3 days later, 35 more points against Boston. In February, in a game against the Trail Blazers, he scores 44 points on 13-4, 16 shooting from the field, and 18-4, 19 from the free throw line. He becomes the first player in Thunder history to score 40-plus points on 80% from the field. These are not small achievements. These are not footnotes. These are landmark performances that belong in conversations about the greatest offensive seasons in NBA history. And he is doing it in Oklahoma City, not in New York, not in Los Angeles, not in a media capital where every great performance gets amplified into legend overnight. He is doing it in a mid-market city in the middle of the country, on a team that built itself slowly and patiently over half a decade, in a building called Paycom Center that most casual fans could not place on a map. That is actually part of the problem, from the perspective of the NBA's broader narrative. Great players in small markets have always had a harder time capturing the imagination of the casual fan. The league's economic and media structure naturally points the spotlight at the coast, at the big cities, at the franchises with the most history and the most attention. And when the best player in the league plays in Oklahoma City, a city that did not even have an NBA team until 2008, when the Seattle Supersonics relocated and became the Thunder, the spotlight does not follow as naturally as it would follow a star in Boston or Los Angeles or Miami. SGA is not just fighting against the criticism of his style. He is also fighting against geography, against a media ecosystem that was not built to celebrate him the way it was built to celebrate players in bigger markets. Back to May 2026. The Oklahoma City Thunder won 64 games last year and won the championship. They replicated that win total in 2026. They swept the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the current playoffs. They are now taking apart the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round. Their record in the first round of the playoffs over the last 3 years, 11 wins, 0 losses. 11-0. They have not lost a first-round game in 3 years. The team that everyone predicted would struggle, the team built in secret over years of patient losing, the team from the middle of the country led by a Canadian kid who got cut from his high school basketball team. They are the most dominant force in basketball right now. And SGA is not done showing the world what he can do. In Game 3 against Phoenix, without his second star Jalen Williams, who had gone down with a hamstring injury, he scored 42 points on 15 for 18 from the field and 11 for 12 from the free throw line. That performance, 42 points, shooting 83% from the floor, was just a 740-point playoff game in NBA history, where the player recorded a true shooting percentage above 90%. 90% true shooting in a playoff game with 42 points. Let that number exist in your brain for a moment. The man is playing at a level that the sport has very rarely seen. And the debate raging around him, foul merchant or basketball genius, unwatchable or untoppable, is doing nothing to slow him down. If anything, it seemed to be fueling him. Here is the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. The reason the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is making the NBA unwatchable argument is so loud right now has very little to do with flopping and free throws. It has everything to do with the fact that he is winning, completely, consistently, overwhelmingly. When a team dominates to the degree that Oklahoma City is dominated, when a single player operates at the efficiency level that Shai operates at, when the outcomes feel more like inevitability than competition, fans of other teams start looking for a narrative. They start looking for a reason that the dominance does not fully count, a reason that the wins are tainted, a reason that the emperor, despite the clothes everyone can plainly see, is actually not as magnificent as he appears. The flopping narrative is that reason. The free throw merchant label is that reason. The unwatchable designation is that reason. It is not entirely wrong. The concerns about officiating consistency are real. The questions about where elite body control ends and manufactured contact begins are legitimate. These are genuine issues in the modern NBA that go beyond any one player. But make no mistake, the intensity of the backlash against SGA is proportional to the intensity of his success. If the Thunder were losing in the second round every year, the viral flop reels would not feel like indictments. They would feel like entertainment. He is not making the NBA unwatchable because he draws fouls. He is making the NBA unwatchable for fans of other teams because he keeps winning, because his team keeps advancing, because the best efforts of the best players in the league keep running into Paycom Center and coming up short. That is not a crisis for basketball. That is the nature of greatness. So where does this go? The Thunder are still in the 2026 playoffs, still rolling, still winning. Gilgeous-Alexander is still one of the 3 finalists for this year's MVP award. He has already been named the 2025-26 Clutch Player of the Year, meaning in the moments when game's on the line, when the pressure is at its highest, when the game is its most distilled and pure, he is the best player in the NBA at delivering. The Clutch Player of the Year. The man they are calling a foul merchant. The man people say is unwatchable. He led the league with 175 total clutch points this season, 6.5 points per game in clutch situations, games decided by 5 or fewer points in the final 5 minutes. When the game gets to its most critical moment, the most critical point, the moment when you need a player to be exactly who they say they are, he is there, delivering, every time. That is not manipulation. That is not flopping. That is the thing that separates good players from great ones from legendary ones. He is 27 years old. He has 1 championship. He has 1 regular season MVP. He has 1 finals MVP. He has a scoring record that puts him in the company of Wilt Chamberlain. He has a signature sneaker. He is building a home in his beloved Hamilton, Ontario, where he bought an ownership stake in the local arena and named the atrium after his son. He is just getting started. And for the people who are saying he is making the NBA unwatchable, there's a part of them that knows the truth, that knows that they're watching him, that knows they cannot look away, that knows that whatever they call it, flopping, foul baiting, free throw hunting unwatchable, they're going to tune in next game. And the game after that, because that is what happens when the best player in the world takes the court. You might be frustrated. You might be angry. You might be writing tweets about it. But you are watching. There's a kid somewhere right now. He is in Hamilton, Ontario. Or maybe he is in Lagos, or Dhaka, or Sao Paulo, or some small city in America that nobody has ever written a feature story about. He is in a gym or a driveway, or a park with a cracked pavement court. He is practicing a move, over and over. The same move, the same footwork. The same subtle shift of weight that makes defenders wrong-footed and referees reach for their whistles. He is not doing it to flop. He is not doing it to cheat. He is doing it because he watched a 6'6" Canadian guard from Hamilton figure out exactly what the game rewards, and he is trying to learn it. That is the influence of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That is his legacy in the making. The kid who got cut from his high school team. who moved across an international border to chase better competition, who got drafted and traded on the same night, who was sent to a franchise in the middle of a painful rebuild and decided to become the best player in the world while everyone watched a different city. He is not making the NBA unwatchable. He is making it impossible to look away. And that little kid on the cracked pavement court, he is bouncing the ball once, twice. He rises as if go shoot. He is watching. He is learning. And somewhere in Oklahoma City, number 2 in a navy blue jersey is walking, slow, calm, like he owns the whole building, toward the free throw line. He bounces the ball. He shoots. It goes in.